You are lying on hard-packed earth beneath the endless Pontic-Caspian steppe sky. The smoke from nearby fires stings your nostrils. Your body aches from today's training. Your shoulders scream from drawing the composite bow 200 times. Your thighs burn from riding without stirrups for 8 hours straight. There is dirt under your broken fingernails. There is dried blood on your leather tunic from yesterday's hunt. You are 12 years old, and you are learning to become what the Greeks will whisper about in terror: an Amazon warrior. But here's what they never taught you in school. The Amazons weren't mythology. Recent archaeological evidence from burial sites across the Eurasian steppes has revealed something extraordinary. 1 in 3 warriors buried with weapons, armor, and battle injuries were women. Real women, real warriors. Real lives filled with brutal training, deadly combat, and survival against impossible odds. So dim the lights, get comfortable, and let me take you on a journey through the daily hardships, the forgotten rituals, and the harsh realities of how these legendary warriors actually lived. Where you're from, what time period you're experiencing, let me know in the comments. Tonight, you won't just learn about history, you'll survive it. You wake before dawn on the steppe, and the first thing you feel is cold. Not the gentle chill of an autumn morning, but the bone-deep cold that seeps through the felt layers of your sleeping roll and settles into your joints. You are Al-Kippa, though your name means powerful mare, and you are barely into your teenage years by modern counting, perhaps 13 winters old. Your body is already changing from the endless training, your shoulders broadening, your forearms thick with muscle that modern girls your age would never develop. There are scars on your hands. 1 arrow wound on your left shoulder that healed crooked. Your hair is cut short and practical, hanging just below your ears in the Scythian style, and there are leather cords woven through it to keep it from your face during combat practice. The inside of the hide tent smells of smoke, old leather, rancid butter, and the particular scent of too many humans sleeping in close quarters. Your mother Hippolyta lies nearby, her breathing deep and steady. She is a full warrior with the ritual scars on her arms that prove she has taken enemy lives. You have counted them, 7 scars, 7 confirmed kills. You wonder when you will earn your first. You sit up slowly, your spine protesting. Yesterday's training was particularly brutal. Melanippe, the weapon master, had you practicing the Scythian shot, firing arrows backward while galloping at full speed for 6 hours straight. Your right thumb is bruised purple from the thumb draw technique, and every muscle in your core feels like it has been beaten with sticks. Welcome to your morning. Welcome to the reality of becoming a legendary warrior. It hurts. You crawl out of the tent into the grey pre-dawn light, and the cold hits you like a physical blow. The steppe stretches endlessly in all directions. Flat grassland broken only by scattered burial mounds and the dark shapes of horses in the distance. There are perhaps 30 tents in your clan's current camp, arranged in a loose circle for defense. Smoke rises from several, and you can already hear the sounds of others waking. The cough of an old warrior, the of horses, the crack of someone breaking ice on the water bucket. Your morning routine is not complex, but it is uncomfortable. First, you walk to the communal latrine area, which is simply a designated spot 50 paces from camp where everyone digs shallow holes. There is no privacy, no toilet paper. You use handfuls of grass, and your hands are permanently stained because of it. And in winter, there is the genuine risk of frostbite in unfortunate places. The Greeks who write about Amazons never mention this part. They speak of fierce warrior women, but they never mention the mundane brutality of squatting in freezing wind while your bowels protest yesterday's dried meat and fermented mare's milk. You wash your face and hands at the water bucket, breaking through the thin layer of ice that has formed overnight. The water is so cold, it feels like needles against your skin, and you, despite yourself. Your mother taught you never to show weakness, but there is no one watching in the grey dawn except the horses, and they do not judge. There is no breakfast yet. That comes later, after morning training. For now, you chew on a piece of dried meat, horse probably, though it could be goat, and wait for Melanippe to emerge from her tent and begin shouting. She is always shouting. That woman has a voice that could wake the dead in their burial mounds, and she enjoys using it at maximum volume. Melanippe emerges from her tent like a winter storm given human form, and you instinctively straighten your spine. She is perhaps 40 winters old, ancient by steppe standards, where many do not see their 30th year, and her body is a map of violence survived. There is a scar that runs from her left temple to her jaw, where an enemy blade nearly killed her. Her right hand is missing the smallest finger, lost to frostbite during a winter raid. She walks with a slight limp from an arrow wound that never healed properly, and yet she moves with a deadly grace that makes even the strongest young warriors nervous. "Up!" she bellows, though everyone is already awake. "Today we practice the Parthian retreat. You will learn to kill men while running away from them." She grins, showing several missing teeth. This is a very useful skill. You gather with the other young warriors. There are 8 of you in training, ranging from age 11 to 16. 4 girls, 4 boys. The Greeks will later claim that Amazons killed all their male children or sent them away, but this is nonsense. Boys and girls train together until puberty, after which the boys who show exceptional skill continue as warriors, while others become herders or craftsmen. The girls have no choice. All must become warriors. This is not liberation. This is survival. On the steppe, a woman who cannot fight is a woman who dies. Melanippe walks among you, her sharp eyes missing nothing. She stops in front of Tarchon, a boy of 14 who has the unfortunate combination of being both clumsy and overconfident. "You," she says flatly, "you will carry rocks today, 20 pounds. You will carry them while you ride, while you shoot, while you eat, until you learn that your horse is not a couch for lazy boys." Tarchon's face falls, but he knows better than to argue. On the steppe, the horses are brought in, and you walk toward yours with the easy familiarity of someone who has spent more time on horseback than on foot. Her name is Saramis, she who flows like water, and she is a small, shaggy steppe pony with a temperament as mean as old cheese. She bites, she kicks. Yesterday she stepped on your foot with what you swear was deliberate malice. But she is fast, sure-footed, and when you fire arrows from her back, she somehow knows to adjust her gait to make your shots more stable. You love her the way you might love a difficult sister who occasionally tries to kill you. There are no saddles. Saddles, as the future will know them, have not been properly invented yet. Instead, you ride on a thick felt pad held in place by a simple girth strap. There are no stirrups. Those will not arrive in this part of the world for another few centuries. You grip with your thighs, balance with your core, and pray to Tabiti, the fire goddess, that you do not fall off during the Parthian retreat exercises, because landing on the steppe at full gallop is an excellent way to break important bones. You check Saramis's mouth for sores, her legs for injuries, her hooves for cracks. Your mother taught you this when you were barely old enough to walk. "The horse is your life," she said. "You drink its milk, you eat its meat when necessary. It carries you in battle and helps you escape when battle goes poorly. A warrior who does not care for her horse is a warrior who dies stupidly." Melanippe shouts something about formation, and you swing onto Saramis's back, your bruised muscles protesting every movement. Around you, The other young warriors mount their own horses with varying degrees of grace. Tarchon struggles with his 20 pounds of rocks. You do not feel sorry for him. Yesterday he laughed when you missed an easy shot. Today is his turn to suffer. The training ground is simply a section of flat steppe marked by wooden posts driven into the earth at intervals. There are no elaborate facilities, no permanent structures. Everything is temporary because the clan moves with the seasons, following the grass and game. In 2 weeks, you will pack these tents, load everything onto wagons, and move 60 miles west where the grazing is better. This is the nomadic life. Nothing is permanent except the sky, the grass, and the constant threat of death. Melanippe demonstrates the Parthian retreat, and you watch with complete attention, because not paying attention is a good way to receive a blow to the head from her practice staff. She wheels her horse in a tight circle, draws an arrow, twists her entire upper body backward, and releases, all while the horse maintains a controlled gallop. The arrow hits the post dead center from 30 paces. She makes it look effortless. It is not effortless. "The Greeks call this the Parthian shot," she shouts as she rides back to the formation. "The Greeks are idiots. We were doing this shot before the Parthians' grandmothers were born. We call it the backwards death, and you will practice it until you can do it in your sleep, while drunk, during a snowstorm." One by one, you begin the exercise. The technique is brutally difficult. You must signal your horse to gallop, not run wild, but maintain a steady, controlled pace, while you twist your upper body backward at the waist, draw your composite bow, aim at a moving target relative to your direction, account for the horse's movement, your own movement, wind conditions, and the arrow's drop over distance. Then you must release smoothly without falling off your horse. Your first attempt is embarrassing. You twist backward, nearly fall, grab Ceramis's mane to avoid humiliation, and your arrow flies so wide it probably lands in the next province. Melanippe says nothing, but her expression speaks volumes. By midday, your entire body is screaming. You have attempted the Parthian retreat perhaps 50 times, and you have hit the post exactly twice, both of which Melanippe described as acceptable for a blind drunk with one arm. Your right thumb is bleeding through the leather guard you wear. Your thighs are raw from gripping the horse's sides. Your spine feels like someone has replaced your vertebrae with hot coals. And you are hungry. So hungry that when you finally dismount for the midday break, your stomach cramps painfully. The midday meal is not elaborate. Someone has made a stew from dried meat, wild onions, and water. It tastes like salted leather boiled in pond water, but you eat it gratefully, using a piece of flatbread to sop up the greasy liquid. There is fermented mare's milk to drink, kumis they call it, which tastes sour and yeasty and slightly alcoholic. It is an acquired taste, which is fortunate because you have no choice but to acquire it. On the steppe, you eat what is available or you starve. There are no restaurants, no variety, no choices, just meat, milk, and whatever can be foraged. You sit with the other trainees, all of you too exhausted to talk much. Tarchon has managed to drop his rocks twice and now has welts on his back from Melanippe's practice staff. Xantha, the oldest trainee at 16, hit the post 7 times and looks smugly pleased with herself. You resist the urge to shove her face into her stew bowl. Competition among the trainees is fierce because everyone knows that excellence means survival and mediocrity means death. Your mother, Hippolyta, walks over, her own midday meal in hand. She does not sit with the trainees. That would undermine the separation between full warriors and those still learning, but she pauses near you. "Your shoulder position is too rigid," she says quietly. "When you twist back, lead with your eyes, then your head, then your shoulders. Flow like water. The shot becomes easier." This is her way of showing affection. No hugs, no comfort, just tactical advice for killing men more efficiently. The afternoon training shifts to ground combat, and you almost wish you could stay on horseback, where at least the horse does some of the work. Melanippe pairs you with Zarinos, a boy of 13 who is both heavier and stronger than you. This is deliberate. You will not always fight opponents your own size, Melanippe says cheerfully. Learn to use their weight against them or die. The weapon for this exercise is the echinocase, a short sword perhaps 18 inches long, designed for close combat. It is not elegant, it is not beautiful. It is a tool for killing other humans at intimate distance, and you have been practicing with it since you were 10 years old. Your hands know the weight of it, the balance point, the way it catches in bone if you do not pull it out quickly enough. These are not pleasant things to know at 13, but pleasant is not a concept the steppe values highly. Zarinos comes at you with the confidence of someone who has already won. He is stronger, his reach is longer, and he knows it. He swings at your head, a blow that would split your skull if his weapon were not wood wrapped in leather for practice. You duck, step inside his guard, and drive your practice blade toward his ribs, but he twists and your strike glances off. You circle each other, feet shuffling through the dusty grass. The fight is exhausting. He presses his advantage, using strength where you must use speed. He backs you toward the edge of the practice circle. You see Melanippe watching, her face impassive. If you step outside the circle, you lose. If you lose, you run 10 miles tonight as punishment. Your lungs are already burning from this morning's riding exercises. Zarinos lunges. You sidestep, hook your leg behind his knee as your mother taught you, and shove. He goes down hard, wind knocked from his lungs. You drop with him, practice blade at his throat. Yield, you gasp. He yields. Melanippe grunts approval, which from her is equivalent to a standing ovation. Evening arrives with a particular golden light that makes the steppe look almost beautiful, and you are assigned horse care duty. This is not a punishment, it is simply rotation. Every warrior, from the youngest trainee to the clan leader, takes turns caring for the herd. The horses are the clan's most valuable resource, more precious than gold or weapons or even water. Without horses, you are simply slow-moving prey on an endless plain where everything wants to kill you. You walk among the herd with a basket of tools: hoof picks, leather strips for emergency repairs, rendered fat for treating wounds. The horses graze peacefully in the evening light, their tails swishing at flies. You check each one methodically: hooves for cracks or stones, legs for swelling, skin for wounds or mange. This is tedious work, but your mother's words echo constantly. A warrior who neglects her horses is a warrior who dies stupidly. Saramis, your difficult mare, has a small cut on her left foreleg that you missed this morning in the pre-dawn darkness. You kneel beside her, talking softly as you clean the wound with water and apply rendered fat. She tolerates this with bad grace, occasionally shifting her weight in a way that suggests she might be considering stepping on your foot again. Yes, yes, you mutter to her. You are very fierce and terrifying. Now hold still. The sun is setting now, painting the sky in shades of orange and red that would be beautiful if you were not so exhausted you can barely see straight. Your stomach growls. There will be an evening meal soon, more stew probably, or perhaps dried meat and flatbread if you are lucky. But first, the horses must be cared for. Always the horses first. This is not cruelty, this is survival. A clan that prioritizes its own comfort over its horses is a clan that does not survive the winter. The evening meal is communal, with the entire clan gathering around several fires. There are perhaps 120 people in your clan: warriors, elders, children, craftspeople, herders. The Greeks will later describe Amazons as living in cities of women, but this is nonsense. You live in extended family groups that move with the seasons, and survival depends on everyone contributing. The romantic notion of warrior women living apart from men is a Greek fantasy. The reality is far more mundane and far more interesting. Tonight's meal is better than usual. Someone managed to kill a deer, so there is fresh meat roasted over the fire, along with the usual flatbread and kumis. You eat until your stomach aches, knowing that tomorrow you might not be so fortunate. On the steppe, you eat when food is available, because you never know when the next meal will come. This is not gluttony. This is basic survival strategy. You sit with the other trainees, listening to the adults talk. The conversation is not about philosophy or art, or any of the things that Greek men claim to discuss at their symposiums. Instead, the talk is practical. Where the clan will move next, which areas have good grazing, which rival clans have been spotted in the region, whether it will be a harsh winter. These discussions are matters of life and death, delivered in flat, practical tones by people who have survived dozens of harsh winters. Your mother sits with the other full warriors, and you watch her when you think she is not looking. She is laughing at something another warrior said, her face relaxed in a way you rarely see during daylight. She has scars on her arms, 7 of them, 1 for each confirmed kill. When you were small, you asked her if killing men was difficult. She looked at you for a long moment. Killing is easy, she said finally. Surviving what you had to do to survive, that is the difficult part. After the meal, there is a brief period of what might generously be called leisure, though on the steppe, leisure is a relative concept. Some of the adults work on equipment repairs, stitching leather, straightening arrows, sharpening blades. The children run and play, their shouts carrying across the darkening plain. The elders sit and talk, their conversations punctuated by long silences that seem to hold decades of accumulated wisdom and exhaustion. You have been assigned to help repair arrows, which is mind-numbing work but necessary. You sit with Aina, an old craftwoman whose fingers are gnarled with age, but still nimble enough to fletch arrows with extraordinary precision. She shows you how to properly attach the feathers. Goose feathers are best, but duck will do, using thin strips of sinew soaked in rendered fat. The angle must be precise, the binding tight. An arrow that flies crooked is an arrow that misses, and an arrow that misses means you do not eat that day, or worse, you die in battle. You did well today, Aina says quietly as she works. Melanippe told me you beat Zaranos in ground combat. You are surprised. Melanippe never praises to your face, but apparently she talks to the elders about trainee progress. He is stronger, you reply, focusing on the arrow in your hands. Strength matters less than people think, Aina says. I have seen strong warriors die because they relied on strength alone. I have seen small warriors survive because they learned to think. She pauses, examining a completed arrow with critical eyes. The Greeks think we are monsters, giant warrior women who tear men apart with our bare hands. This is foolish fantasy. We survive because we are careful, because we plan, because we train until our muscles remember the movements without thought. She hands you another arrow shaft. Strength fades, skill endures. Remember this. You fall asleep that night with your body screaming its exhaustion, your hands smelling of rendered fat and sinew, your mind full of Aina's words about skill and survival. The hide tent is crowded with sleeping bodies, your mother, 2 other warriors, 3 children from another family whose parents are on scouting patrol. Everyone is bundled in felt and fur. breathing creating condensation in the cold night air. Someone snores. Someone else mutters in their sleep. This is normal. Privacy is a luxury the steppe does not afford. But tonight, sleep does not come easily. You lie awake, staring at the darkness above you, thinking about tomorrow's training. Melanippe mentions something about practicing from a moving platform, essentially riding in a wagon while shooting at targets, simulating combat while retreating from overwhelming enemy forces. This will be brutal. Everything is brutal. That is the point. You think about your mother's ritual scars. 7 confirmed kills. You wonder what it felt like. That moment when her blade or arrow ended another human life. You wonder if it gets easier, or if it stays difficult, or if thinking about such things is pointless, because eventually you will find out firsthand. On the steppe, combat is not hypothetical. Raiders come. Rival clans fight over territory. Resources are scarce, and violence is the common language for resolving disputes. The Greeks will write poems about Amazon warriors, making you sound mythical and savage and somehow less than human. But lying here in the darkness, listening to sleeping humans breathe and snore and dream, you are simply a 13-year-old girl who hurts everywhere, who is scared of disappointing her mother, who wants to prove herself worthy of her clan's trust. You are not mythical. You are just trying to survive in a world that does not care about your age or your fears or your exhaustion. Eventually, sleep claims you. You wake the next morning to Melanippe's voice cutting through the darkness like a blade through flesh. Up! Today we learn why wagons are terrible archery platforms. You groan internally, but sit up immediately, because groaning externally is an excellent way to earn extra morning exercises. The day begins like yesterday. Cold water, dried meat, the endless routine of caring for horses and equipment. But today's training is different. Someone has prepared 3 wagons, each hitched to a team of oxen. These are not the elegant chariots that Greek heroes drive in their stories. These are functional, heavy, wooden wagons with solid wheels and no suspension whatsoever. They are designed to carry supplies and families during seasonal migrations, and they bounce viciously over even slightly uneven ground. You are loaded into the first wagon with 3 other trainees. Melanippe herself will drive the oxen team, which should be terrifying because her driving is as aggressive as her teaching method. The scenario, she shouts over her shoulder, is that your clan is retreating from a much larger enemy force. You must defend the wagons while moving. You must hit targets while the entire world is shaking you like a baby's rattle. Begin. The wagon lurches forward, and immediately you understand why this exercise exists and why it is going to be terrible. The wooden wagon bed shakes and bounces with every tiny imperfection in the ground. The wheels creak and groan. The oxen move at an irregular pace, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, never predictable. You try to draw your bow, and the wagon hits a bump that nearly sends you tumbling over the side. Melanippe laughs. This woman enjoys your suffering. Targets to the left, she bellows. You see the wooden posts and you try to aim, but the wagon bounces again and your arrow flies wildly off target. This is going to be a very long day. By mid-morning, every trainee has bruises from being thrown against the wagon's wooden sides, and nobody has successfully hit more than 1 target in 10 attempts. Melanippe seems delighted by this failure. This is reality, she shouts over the creaking of the wagon. When enemies chase you, when you are retreating with your clan's children and elders in these wagons, you will not have perfect conditions. You will be tired, afraid. The wagon will shake, your hands will tremble, and you must still kill the men who chase you. You try again. The wagon bounces. You compensate, leading the target based on the wagon's movement. You breathe out slowly, release, and your arrow actually hits the post. Not center, but it hits. A solid impact that makes a satisfying thunk sound. "Adequate!" Melanippe shouts, which from her is practically a love poem. The training continues until your legs are shaking from the constant bracing, your core muscles are screaming from maintaining balance, and your right thumb is bleeding again despite the leather guard. But you are improving. Your body is learning to anticipate the wagon's movement, to compensate automatically, to shoot effectively from an unstable platform. This is the point of brutal training, to drill the movements so deeply into muscle memory that you can perform them under the worst possible conditions. The midday break is welcome beyond words. You collapse onto the grass beside the wagon, every muscle in your body protesting. Tarkon looks like he might vomit. Xantha has a bleeding nose from being thrown against the wagon side. Even the boys who are usually cocky and confident look shaken. Shooting from horseback is difficult. Shooting from a bouncing wagon that you cannot control is exponentially worse. Your mother approaches with water and dried meat. "You hit 3 posts," she says quietly. "I was watching. You are learning faster than I did." This is high praise from her. The afternoon session moves to a different form of brutality. Wrestling. Not the ritualized, rule-bound wrestling that exists in Greek games, but practical combat wrestling designed to teach you how to survive when an enemy gets too close for weapons. Melanippe pairs you against different opponents in rotation, and each match is a study in controlled violence. Your first match is against Lysandra, a girl of 14 who outweighs you by 20 pounds and has arms like tree branches. The goal is simple. Force your opponent to submit through joint locks, chokes, or pins. There are few rules: no eye gouging, no biting, no strikes to the throat. Everything else is permissible, because in real combat, there are no rules at all. Lysandra comes at you like a landslide, and you barely manage to sidestep her initial rush. You grab her arm, trying for a lock, but she is too strong and shakes you off. She gets behind you, arms wrapping around your torso in a crushing bear hug. You cannot breathe. You panic for a moment, then remember your training. Drop your weight suddenly, making yourself heavier and harder to lift. You do this, and she stumbles. You twist, break her grip, scramble away, gasping. The match continues for what feels like hours, but is probably only minutes. She is stronger, but you are faster. She tires first. Strength always tires faster than speed, and you finally manage to get her in a chokehold that forces her to tap submission. You release immediately. On the step, you train hard, but you do not injure your clanmates unnecessarily. Everyone must be able to fight when real enemies come. "Better!" Melanippe shouts. You used her strength against her. You did not try to match power with power. This is intelligence. Coming from Melanippe, this is equivalent to a parade in your honor. Evening arrives with your body in a new configuration of pain. Wrestling has added bruises to places you did not know could be bruised. Your neck hurts from where someone's arm pressed too hard. Your ribs ache from being squeezed. Your ego is bruised from losing 2 of your 5 matches, though you tell yourself that losing to opponents who outweigh you by significant amounts is no shame. Melanippe says losing is how you learn what does not work, which is theoretically comforting, but practically still frustrating. The horse care rotation tonight includes not just checking the herd, but also practicing mounted wrestling techniques. This is exactly as terrible as it sounds. Attempting to grapple with another rider while both of you are on horseback, trying to pull them from their mount while not being pulled from your own. You are paired with Zarinos, who you beat yesterday in ground combat and who is now eager for revenge. The technique requires perfect balance, timing, and a certain amount of controlled insanity. You ride alongside each other at a canter, not fast enough to be truly dangerous, but fast enough that falling will hurt significantly. At Melanippy's signal, you reach for each other, grabbing arms, shoulders, clothing, anything that provides grip. Zarinos has the advantage of strength and weight, and he nearly yanks you sideways off Saramis. You hook your leg around his, pull, and both of you nearly fall. "Better to fall together than fall alone," Melanippy shouts helpfully. You separate, circle, try again. This time you anticipate his grab, lean into it rather than resisting, and use his own pulling force to unbalance him. He slips but recovers. You both return to starting positions. This exercise continues until the sun is setting and you are too exhausted to feel your arms anymore. The evening meal is welcome beyond measure. You eat mechanically, too tired to even taste the food, just shoveling calories into your body because tomorrow requires fuel. That night, something different happens. After the evening meal, the clan gathers for a ritual that occurs perhaps once every few months, the warrior ceremony. 3 young warriors, 2 women and 1 man, are being formally recognized for earning their first confirmed kills during a recent skirmish with a rival clan that you did not participate in because you are still in training. The 3 stand before the clan elders and the fire, and the atmosphere is serious in a way that normal evening gatherings are not. This is not celebration. This is acknowledgement of a fundamental transformation. They went out as trainees and returned as warriors who have taken human life. They are no longer theoretical fighters, but proven killers. And this distinction matters deeply in a culture where survival depends on the ability to defend the clan with lethal force. The clan elder, a woman named Tomiris, who is perhaps 60 winters old and has more scars than teeth, speaks in a voice that carries across the assembled clan. You have killed to protect the clan. You have proven your training is more than technique. It is will and courage. But know this, taking life leaves a mark that never fades. You will carry what you have done for all your days. The clan honors your courage and accepts your burden. Each warrior is then ritually scarred, a deliberate cut on the forearm, treated with ash and plant resin that will leave a permanent dark mark. 1 scar for each confirmed kill. The 3 new warriors bear this with stoic faces, though you see 1 woman's jaw clench with pain. No one makes a sound. To show weakness during this ceremony would be unthinkable. You watch with mixed feelings. Part of you wants to earn your own ritual scar. The next morning brings a different kind of training, tracking and hunting. Melanippy announces this with less enthusiasm than usual, which is suspicious. Today you learn that war is not just fighting, she says. War is also not starving when supply lines fail. You will hunt, you will find food, or you will be hungry tonight. This is motivation. You are divided into pairs and sent in different directions across the steppe, with only your weapons, a water skin, and instructions to return by sundown with something edible. You are paired with Lysandra, the girl you wrestled yesterday. She nods at you with grudging respect. On the steppe, defeating someone in combat earns you respect, not resentment. The morning sun is climbing when you spot tracks in the soft earth near a muddy stream. Hoofprints, droppings, disturbed grass. Saiga antelope, probably. A small herd moving through in the past few hours. Lysandra is better at tracking than you. Her father is a noted hunter, and she kneels to examine the prints more closely. Maybe 2 hours old, she says quietly. Moving east. 5 or 6 animals, including young. You follow the trail, moving carefully and quietly. Hunting on the steppe is not like hunting in forests where you can hide behind trees. Here, everything can see everything, and the prey animals have evolved to be paranoid and fast. Your only advantages are patience, skill, and the ability to shoot from long distances. After an hour of careful stalking, you spot them. A small group of Saiga antelope grazing near a shallow depression. The wind is in your favor. Lysandra looks at you, points to herself, then points to a position 50 paces to the left. She will circle, and if they run from her, they will run toward you. If they run toward her, she will have the shot. This is basic hunting coordination. You nod and begin your careful approach. The Saiga antelope are nervous. They are always nervous because everything on the steppe wants to eat them, and their heads constantly lift from grazing to scan for threats. You remain absolutely motionless, bow drawn, waiting. Your arms begin to burn from holding the draw, but you do not move. Movement equals discovery, and discovery equals failure. Lysandra is circling wide, staying low, invisible in the grass. One of the young antelopes spots something, maybe Lysandra, maybe just a shadow, and alerts with a sharp snort. The herd freezes, all heads up, all eyes scanning. This is the moment. In seconds they will either relax or flee. You must decide. Take the shot now with nervous targets, or wait and possibly lose them entirely. You breathe out slowly and release. The arrow flies true, all those hours of brutal practice paying off in this single moment, and strikes the young antelope in the chest. It leaps once, stumbles, falls. The rest of the herd explodes into flight, racing away across the steppe with the speed that keeps their species alive despite being made of delicious meat. You sprint toward the fallen animal, drawing your knife. It is still alive, eyes rolling with terror and pain. On the steppe, you are taught to end suffering quickly, not from kindness exactly, but from respect for the animal that will feed you. You cut its throat cleanly, holding its head as it dies. This is necessary. This is survival, but it never feels good. Lysandra arrives, breathing hard from her run. She looks at the kill, looks at you. "Good shot," she says simply. Then she helps you with the butchering, a messy, practical process that involves cutting, gutting, and preparing the meat for transport. This is not glorious. This is bloody and smelly and requires careful work to avoid wasting usable parts. You save everything: meat, hide, sinew, even bones that can be used for tools. By midday, you are carrying perhaps 40 pounds of meat between you. The walk back to camp is long and hot, made worse by the weight of meat you carry. Your shoulders ache under the straps of your pack. Flies are attracted to the fresh meat, and you spend the entire journey swatting them away while they buzz around your head in persistent clouds. Lysandra starts singing an old hunting song, less for enjoyment and more to maintain a steady walking rhythm when your body wants to stop. What lives on grass, dies to bow, feeds the clan through winter snow. The song is not beautiful. On the steppe, songs are functional. Work songs, marching songs, songs to maintain rhythm during repetitive tasks. The Greeks have songs about love and beauty and philosophical concepts. Steppe songs are about not dying. You arrive at camp in late afternoon to find that 2 other hunting pairs have already returned with kills. One pair brought back 3 large rabbits. Another pair somehow managed to bring down a young wild horse. Your Saiga antelope is a solid contribution, and Melanippe grunts approval when she sees it. "You shot clean," she says, examining the arrow wound. "Quick kill, no chase. This is efficient." The meat is immediately processed for the evening meal and for drying. Nothing is wasted. The hide will be scraped and cured for leather. The sinew will be used for bowstrings and binding. The bones will be cracked for marrow and then carved into tools or ornaments. The internal organs are distributed to those who want them. Liver, heart, kidneys, all edible and nutritious. On the steppe, the idea of choice cuts does not exist. You eat what is available. That evening's meal is better than usual because of the fresh meat. You eat your portion of roasted saiga, and it tastes like accomplishment. You provided for your clan. This is what warriors do. They protect and they provide. You are not yet a full warrior, but today you contributed. The next phase of your training begins with an announcement that fills you with dread. Long-distance endurance ride, Melanippe says flatly. 50 miles, today. You will learn what happens when your clan must flee from overwhelming force. You will learn what your body can survive when survival is the only option. 50 miles, on horseback, without stopping for more than brief water breaks. You have ridden long distances before, but never this far in a single push. Your body already aches from days of brutal training. Your thighs are raw, your hands are blistered. And now you must ride until sunset, maintaining pace with the group or face punishment. You saddle Saramis with hands that shake slightly from fatigue. She can sense your nervousness and shifts irritably. We are going to suffer together today, you tell her quietly. Try not to kill me. The ride begins at a steady trot, not fast enough to exhaust the horses quickly, but fast enough to cover distance. Melanippe leads the group, and the 8 trainees follow in a loose formation. The steppe stretches endlessly in all directions, flat and monotonous, and hypnotic in its repetition. Grass, sky, horizon. Grass, sky, horizon. Your world contracts to the rhythm of Saramis's gait, the creak of leather, the sound of hoofbeats. After the first 10 miles, your body settles into a kind of numb acceptance. Pain becomes background noise. You drink from your water skin when signaled. You maintain position in the formation. You exist in a state between awareness and autopilot. This is the point of endurance training, to teach your body and mind that they can continue functioning long after comfort has ended. After 20 miles, your thighs are screaming. After 30, you can barely feel them. This is either very bad or very good, and you are too exhausted to determine which. You reach the 50-mile mark just as the sun is setting, painting the steppe in those deceptive, beautiful colors that make you forget how much you hate this place. Melanippe finally signals a halt, and you nearly fall from Saramis rather than dismount with any grace. Your legs buckle when your feet hit the ground, and you catch yourself on Saramis's side. The horse looks tired but not destroyed. She is built for this, bred for centuries to carry warriors across endless distances. You, on the other hand, feel like someone has replaced your leg muscles with boiled rope. Adequate, Melanippe shouts, which means everyone survived. Tomorrow we ride back. You want to cry. You do not cry because crying is not useful, but you very much want to. Around you, the other trainees are in similar states of exhausted misery. Tarchon is actually lying flat on the ground, staring at the sky. Xantha is swaying like a drunk. Even the boys who are usually insufferable with confidence look broken. But here is the thing about the steppe. It does not care about your exhaustion. You still must care for your horse. You still must set up camp for the night. You still must eat, drink, and prepare for tomorrow. Survival does not pause for weakness. You check Saramis with hands that shake from fatigue. Hooves, legs, mouth, all the usual checks. She is fine, better than fine actually, barely winded. You want to be angry at her for being in better condition than you, but mostly you are just jealous. Being a horse seems easier than being a warrior in training. The evening meal is dried meat and water because no one has energy to cook properly. You eat mechanically, chewing and swallowing without tasting. Your mother sits beside you in silence. She rode alongside the trainees today, matching the pace effortlessly because she is an actual warrior and not a half-dead teenager. It gets easier, she says finally. You want to believe her, but mostly you want to sleep. The return ride the next day is worse because your body has not recovered and now must perform the same brutal task again. You mount Saramis with muscles that scream protest at every movement. The first few miles are agony, your raw thighs rubbing against the felt pad, your bruised spine bouncing with each step, your hands cramping around the reins. But gradually, horrifyingly, you notice something. Your body is adapting. The pain is still there, but you are learning to function through it. This is the point. This is what separates warriors who survive from those who do not. The ability to continue performing when every instinct screams to stop. Your body wants rest. The steppe does not care what your body wants. Halfway through the return journey, Melanippe announces a surprise that surprises no one because she does this periodically. Practice combat while exhausted. She produces blunt practice arrows and declares that for the next hour, you will engage in mock-mounted combat with each other. You will ride at speed, fire at your fellow trainees, and attempt to score hits while avoiding being hit yourself. This is dangerous even with blunt arrows. A blunt arrow cannot pierce, but it can absolutely break ribs, bruise organs, or cause a fall from a moving horse. You have seen trainees carried back to camp with serious injuries from this exercise. But the alternative to training is dying in actual combat. So you grip your bow and prepare to shoot at your clanmates. The exercise is chaos. 8 riders wheeling across the steppe, firing at each other, shouting warnings, cursing when arrows strike. You take a hit to the shoulder that will leave a spectacular bruise. You land a shot on Zaranos's back that makes him yelp. Your exhaustion makes everything harder. Your aim is less steady, your reactions slower, your judgment impaired. This is the point. Melanippe wants you to learn how your combat effectiveness degrades with fatigue so you can compensate. You arrive back at the main camp in late afternoon, and you have never been happier to see those hide tents in your entire life. The 2-day ride is complete, and you survived. Several trainees have new injuries. Lysandra broke a finger when she fell during the mock combat. Tarchon has a possibly cracked rib from a blunt arrow impact. But everyone survived and can continue training. This is success by steppe standards. Your mother approaches as you dismount, and she actually smiles, which is rare. You did not complain once, she says. Not during the 50 miles out, not during the return, not during combat. You are becoming a warrior. This praise feels better than any amount of food or rest. Your mother's approval is hard-earned and therefore valuable. You stand a little straighter despite your exhaustion, but there is no extended rest period. After caring for Saramis and eating a quick meal, you are informed that tonight you begin learning the next critical skill: night operations. Because enemies do not only attack during convenient daylight hours, and neither should warriors. As darkness falls across the steppe, Melanippe gathers the trainees for a lesson in moving quietly in darkness. Your eyes are useless, she says. You cannot see enemies clearly. They cannot see you clearly. Everything is shadows and sounds and instinct. You must learn to fight in darkness, or darkness will kill you. She divides you into 2 groups, attackers and defenders. The attackers must infiltrate the camp without being detected. The defenders must stop them using only awareness and stealth. No shouting allowed, as that would alert the entire clan. You're assigned to the attacking group, which means you must crawl through grass in the darkness, avoiding sentries who know you are coming somewhere at some time. This is nerve-wracking in a way that daylight combat is not. Every sound is magnified. Every movement feels exposed. You crawl forward on your belly, pushing through grass, your knife between your teeth, wondering if someone is watching you right now. You are perhaps 20 paces from the camp perimeter when you hear the faint rustle of grass that does not match the wind pattern. Someone is near you. Defender or fellow attacker? You freeze completely, not even breathing, trying to identify the source. The sound comes again, slightly to your left. You turn your head with glacial slowness, and in the starlight you see movement. A defender, also crawling, also listening. This becomes a deadly game of statue. Neither of you can afford to be caught, but neither of you is certain who is friend or enemy in the darkness. You make a slow hand signal that identifies you as attacker, a gesture Melanippe taught earlier. The figure does not respond with the defender's countersign. Fellow attacker. You both relax slightly and continue forward. You reach the camp perimeter just as another attacker is caught by a defender who seemingly materialized from the shadows. There is a brief, silent struggle, and the attacker is killed, marked with ash to indicate elimination. You watch from the darkness, learning from his mistake. He moved too quickly, made too much noise. Impatience kills. You wait for 10 minutes, an eternity in darkness, and then slip forward when the defender moves to patrol another section. You cross into the camp proper, moving between tents, and you are so focused on forward movement that you almost miss the sentry behind you until she is right there, knife against your throat. Dead, she whispers. You are eliminated. But here is the thing. You made it farther than 6 of the 8 attackers. And this is only your first night operation exercise. Melanippe will drill this until you can infiltrate a camp blindfolded in a snowstorm, or die trying. Probably both. The weeks pass in a blur of brutal training and incremental improvement. You are learning that becoming a warrior is not a single dramatic moment, but rather an accumulation of 10,000 small competencies. How to shoot accurately while exhausted, how to fall from a horse without breaking bones, how to identify edible plants that might save you if game is scarce, how to read weather patterns that could kill you if ignored, how to treat wounds with nothing but what nature provides. One afternoon, you are practicing a particularly unpleasant skill, battlefield medicine. Melanippe has produced a goat, not a dead goat, a living goat that does not appreciate being used as a teaching tool, and you are learning to treat a wounded warrior by practicing on this increasingly angry animal. The goal is to practice suturing wounds, setting broken bones, and treating hemorrhages on something with approximately human anatomy that will actually bleed and struggle like a wounded human would. In battle, Melanippe explains while holding the goat down, your clanmates will be screaming, they will be thrashing, they will be bleeding everywhere. You must work fast, work accurate, and not panic. Practice on the goat. The goat has a controlled cut on its leg, deep enough to bleed significantly, but not life-threatening. And your task is to stop the bleeding, clean the wound, and suture it closed. The goat does not consent to this treatment and attempts to kick you in the face multiple times. You work while being kicked, while covered in goat blood, while the animal screams its displeasure. This is not the glorious warrior training that Greek poets sing about. This is practical, bloody, necessary work that must be done if you want your clanmates to survive combat. You finish the suturing with hands that shake from adrenaline and goat-related frustration. The wound is closed. The goat is fine. You are covered in blood and possibly have a concussion from when the goat headbutted you. Adequate, Melanippe shouts. The goat will live. Your future wounded warriors will probably also live. This is progress. Your training enters a new phase when Melanippe announces that you will begin learning survival without resources. This translates to, you are dropped alone on the steppe with nothing but a knife and must survive for 3 days. No horse, no bow, no food, no water containers. Just you, a knife, and whatever the steppe provides. This is terrifying. You have lived your entire life surrounded by clan support, warriors who hunt, craftspeople who make tools, communal resources. The idea of being alone with no backup is fundamentally unnatural for someone raised in a nomadic clan. But Melanippe is unmoved by your fear. Warriors get separated in battle, she says. Warriors get lost in storms. Warriors must know how to survive alone, or they die alone. You are taken 10 miles from camp, far enough that walking back would take significant time, and left with just your knife and the clothes you wear. The other trainees are dropped in different locations. You cannot rely on finding them. Melanippe rides away and you are alone. The first priority is water. Without water, you will die in days, possibly sooner in the heat. You walk toward a dry streambed you spotted from horseback, hoping to find water below the surface. You dig with your hands and your knife, scraping through dry earth, and after perhaps 2 hours of sweaty work, you hit mud, then moisture, then finally a trickle of water pooling in your excavated hole. It is muddy and probably contaminated, but it is water. You drink carefully, knowing that drinking too fast when dehydrated can make you sick. The water tastes like earth and probably contains organisms that will give you interesting intestinal problems later, but these are tomorrow's problems. Today's problem is not dying of thirst, and you have solved today's problem. The second priority is food, which is more complex. You have no bow, no traps prepared. You must find food using only your knife and your knowledge. Food proves more challenging than water. You spend the afternoon searching for anything edible. You find wild onions, not pleasant raw, but edible and nutritious. You dig up some roots that you recognize from foraging lessons, plants with edible tubers that taste like dirty starch but provide calories. You catch a lizard using a technique Ina taught you, moving very slowly, grabbing very fast, and eat it raw because you have no way to make fire without friction tools or flint. Eating a raw lizard is exactly as unpleasant as it sounds. You bite through scales and meat that taste like warm copper and earth. Your stomach protests, but you force yourself to chew and swallow. Protein is protein. On the steppe, you do not have the luxury of being particular about your food sources. As evening approaches, you begin to think about shelter. The temperature drops significantly at night on the steppe, and you have no blankets or fire. You find a shallow depression in the ground near some rocks. Not much, but it will provide slight protection from wind. You dig it deeper with your hands and knife, creating a body-sized hollow. You gather grass, armfuls of it, and pile it in the hollow to create insulation. You will bury yourself in grass tonight to conserve body heat. As you work, you think about your clans sitting around evening fires, eating proper food, sleeping in proper tents. You feel very small and very alone. This is the point of the exercise, to teach you that you can survive alone, that you have the skills and knowledge to keep yourself alive even without clan support. But knowing this intellectually does not make the loneliness easier. Night falls and you curl into your grass-lined hollow, pulling more grass over yourself like a blanket. You are cold, hungry, and uncomfortable, but you are alive. You made water appear from dry earth. You found food where there seemed to be none. You created shelter from nothing. Tomorrow, you will do it again. You wake the next morning, stiff, cold, and still alive, which counts as victory. Your water hole has collected more water overnight, so you drink again, trying not to think about what might be living in the water. You eat more roots and wild onions for breakfast, which is a depressing meal, but better than nothing. Today's goal is to improve your situation. You need protein beyond occasional lizards, and you need fire for warmth and cooking. Fire is the harder problem. You have no flint, no friction drill, no magnifying glass. But you know the theory of fire making with a hand drill, which involves spinning a stick very fast against a flat piece of wood until friction creates an ember. In theory, this works. In practice, it requires specific wood types, dry conditions, and more patience than you currently possess. You spend 3 hours trying to make fire using a hand drill. Your hands blister. Your arms shake with fatigue. You create smoke several times, but no ember. Finally, on perhaps the 15th attempt, you achieve a tiny glowing ember in the wood dust. You transfer it carefully to a nest of dry grass, Blow gently, blow more, and suddenly you have flame. You almost cry with relief. Fire means warmth. Fire means cooked food. Fire means you are not completely helpless. You feed the flame carefully, building it up with grass and then small sticks. You have created fire from nothing but knowledge and persistence. With fire, everything improves. You dig up more roots and roast them, which makes them vastly more palatable. You see a ground squirrel in the distance and attempt to hunt it by approaching slowly and throwing your knife. This fails spectacularly. The squirrel disappears, and you have to retrieve your knife from where it landed 20 feet away. But the attempt teaches you something about the difficulty of hunting without a proper weapon. By evening of day 2, you have fire, water, shelter, and food. You are surviving. On the 3rd day, you wake to find that your fire has died during the night. This is frustrating because restarting it will consume time and energy. But it also teaches an important lesson. Fire requires constant attention, or you lose it and must start over. You rebuild the fire using the knowledge from yesterday, and while it still takes significant effort, you manage it in less than an hour instead of 3. Today, you decide to attempt making a more sophisticated trap for small game. Using your knife, you cut thin strips from your leather belt, which will require explaining later, but future you can deal with future you's problems. You construct a simple snare using techniques Aina taught you. A loop of leather attached to a bent sapling, positioned on a game trail that shows signs of regular use by rabbits or ground squirrels. Setting traps is gambling against time. The trap might catch something in an hour, or it might sit empty for days. You check it every few hours while maintaining your fire and gathering more food. On the 3rd check, you find success. A fat ground squirrel caught by the leg, very much alive and very angry about its situation. Killing it is surprisingly difficult emotionally. Shooting an animal with an arrow from distance is one thing. Killing a trapped animal that looks at you with terrified eyes while it struggles is another. But you need the protein, and leaving it to suffer in the trap is worse than ending it quickly. You use your knife, make it fast, and try not to think about it too much. You skin and gut the squirrel with more competence than you expected. Months of practice on larger game translating to smaller scale. Roasted over your fire, it is the best meal you have had in 3 days, which tells you something about how thoroughly this experience has lowered your standards. As afternoon approaches, you see riders in the distance. Melanippe and others coming to collect the trainees. Your 3 days are complete. Your return to camp is met with the typical step response. Minimal fuss and maximum practicality. Melanippe examines your blistered hands, your improvised shelter site, your fire remnants, and your snare trap. She grunts approval. You survived. You made fire. You caught game. You did not die stupidly. This is adequate. Around you, the other trainees return in various states. Lysandra looks relatively comfortable. She caught 3 squirrels and apparently spent 1 day napping. That evening's meal tastes like the finest feast you have ever eaten, even though it is just the normal stew and flatbread. Having gone 3 days with minimal food makes you appreciate even basic clan meals. You eat until your stomach aches, drink until you are no longer constantly thirsty, and sleep in the tent surrounded by family members who suddenly seem like the pinnacle of luxury and security. But the next morning, training continues. Because becoming a warrior is not about one dramatic survival test. It is about building layers of competency until the skills become automatic. You return to the usual brutal routine: mounted archery, hand combat, formation riding, weapons maintenance. The survival test was just one more layer of knowledge added to your growing foundation. Weeks pass. Your body continues to change. More muscle, more scars, more calluses. Your shooting improves to the point where Melanippe rarely calls your work pathetic anymore, upgrading to barely adequate and occasionally acceptable. Your wrestling record improves. You can now reliably hit targets from a moving wagon approximately 3 times out of 10, which is apparently exceptional by the standards of wagon-based archery. You are not yet a full warrior, but you are becoming one. You are 15 winters old when the message arrives that changes everything. A rival clan has been raiding the territory's eastern edge, and your clan must respond with force or appear weak. This is not practice. This is not a drill. This is actual combat, and you are going. The clan prepares for war with practiced efficiency. Warriors check weapons, sharpen blades, prepare arrows. Horses are selected for speed and endurance. Food is packed for a multi-day expedition. And the trainees, yourself included, are informed that you will accompany the raid as auxiliary warriors. You will not be in the first line of combat unless absolutely necessary, but you will defend the camp, guard the horses, and if the battle goes poorly, you will fight. Your mother helps you prepare your equipment with unusual gentleness. She checks your bow twice, examines your arrows, adjusts your armor, which consists of hardened leather reinforced with bone plates. Listen to commands, she says quietly. Do not try to be heroic. Heroism is how young warriors die impressively, but uselessly. Stay alive, that is your only job. You nod, unable to speak because your throat is tight with fear. This is what all the training was for. All the brutal exercises, the exhaustion, the pain, the endless repetition. It was building toward this moment when you would face actual enemies who actually want to kill you. The war party leaves at dawn. 30 warriors, 8 trainees, and Melanippe commanding. You ride in formation, and the atmosphere is completely different from training rides. There is no joking, no casual conversation. Everyone is focused inward, preparing mentally for violence. Some warriors sing quiet war songs, not the rousing battle anthems of Greek poetry, but simple, repetitive chants that seem designed more to calm the singer than frighten the enemy. You ride for 2 days, moving fast, stopping only briefly. On the second evening, scouts return with information. The rival clan's raiding party has been located, approximately 40 fighters camped near a small river valley. Tomorrow there will be battle. The night before battle, you do not sleep. You lie on your bedroll staring at stars, thinking about tomorrow. You think about the ritual scars your mother has, about the ceremony you watched months ago. You think about the practice goat you sutured, about how it thrashed and screamed. You think about enemies who will not be practice targets, but actual humans who will try to kill you while you try to kill them. Around you, others also lie awake. You can tell by their breathing patterns, by the occasional shifting and quiet murmurs. Even experienced warriors grow tense before combat. The difference is that they have learned to function through the fear, whereas you are experiencing it fully for the first time. Your mother appears silently and sits beside you. She does not say anything for a long time, just sits in the darkness. Finally, the first one is hardest, she says quietly. Not the killing, that is simply mechanics, like butchering game. The hard part is living with having done it. The person you are today will not be the same person tomorrow. This is unavoidable. But know that your clan needs you to become that different person. She pauses. And know that I will be near you tomorrow. I will not let you die if I can prevent it. This is perhaps the most emotional statement you have ever heard from her. On the step, expressing concern for your children's safety is rarely explicit. It is demonstrated through training, through preparing them to survive, through ensuring they have the skills needed. Saying it aloud means she is genuinely worried, which makes you more worried. She squeezes your shoulder once, then returns to her own bedroll. You lie awake until dawn, and when the sun rises, it is time. The battle plan is straightforward. Your clan will attack the rival camp at dawn while they are still organizing. Speed, surprise, and overwhelming initial force will determine the outcome. The trainees are assigned to remain with the horses and supplies at a safe distance, with instructions to flee if the battle goes badly and to fight if the enemy breaks through to your position. You watch from a low hill as the warriors prepare to charge. They form into a loose wedge formation, bows ready, warriors synchronized through years of training together. Melanippe raises her hand, holds it for a long moment while everyone prepares, then drops it in a sharp downward motion. The warriors explode into motion, horses leaping from standing to full gallop in seconds. They close the distance to the enemy camp with terrifying speed, and you see the moment when the rival clan realizes they are under attack. Figures scrambling from tents, shouts carrying across the distance, chaos as they try to organize defense while still being struck by the initial arrow barrage. From your position, you see the entire battle unfold like something from a training scenario, except this time the arrows are real and the people falling are actually dying. The rival warriors mount their own horses, form their own defensive positions, and suddenly the two groups are wheeling across the valley floor, firing, charging, breaking, reforming. It looks like complete chaos, but you can see the underlying patterns from countless training exercises. Then something goes wrong. A group of enemy riders breaks away from the main battle and rides directly toward your position. 6 of them, experienced warriors, coming fast. Melanippe is engaged in the main fight and cannot help. The trainee group commander, a 17-year-old named Calaxis, who earned his ritual scar 6 months ago, shouts orders. "Formation! Defend the horses! They cannot take our horses!" You are no longer watching the battle, you are in it. The afternoon session moves to a different form of brutality. Wrestling. Not the ritualized, rule-bound wrestling that exists in Greek games, but practical combat wrestling designed to teach you how to survive when an enemy gets too close for weapons. Melanippe pairs you against different opponents in rotation, and each match is a study in controlled violence. Your first match is against Lysandra, a girl of 14 who outweighs you by 20 pounds and has arms like tree branches. The goal is simple. Force your opponent to submit through joint locks, chokes, or pins. There are few rules: no eye gouging, no biting, no strikes to the throat. Everything else is permissible because in real combat, there are no rules at all. Lysandra comes at you like a landslide, and you barely manage to sidestep her initial rush. You grab her arm, trying for a lock, but she is too strong and shakes you off. She gets behind you, arms wrapping around your torso in a crushing bear hug. You cannot breathe. You panic for a moment, then remember your training. Drop your weight suddenly, making yourself heavier and harder to lift. You do this and she stumbles. You twist, break her grip, scramble away, gasping. The match continues for what feels like hours, but is probably only minutes. She is stronger, but you are faster. She tires first. Strength always tires faster than speed, and you finally manage to get her in a chokehold that forces her to tap submission. You release immediately. On the step, you train hard, but you do not injure your clanmates unnecessarily. Everyone must be able to fight when real enemies come. "Better!" Melanippe shouts. You used her strength against her. You did not try to match power with power. This is intelligence. Coming from Melanippe, this is equivalent to a parade in your honor. Evening arrives with your body in a new configuration of pain. Wrestling has added bruises to places you did not know could be bruised. Your neck hurts from where someone's arm pressed too hard. Your ribs ache from being squeezed. Your ego is bruised from losing 2 of your 5 matches. though you tell yourself that losing to opponents who outweigh you by significant amounts is no shame. Melanippe says losing is how you learn what does not work, which is theoretically comforting, but practically still frustrating. The horse care rotation tonight includes not just checking the herd, but also practicing mounted wrestling techniques. This is exactly as terrible as it sounds. Attempting to grapple with another rider while both of you are on horseback, trying to pull them from their mount while not being pulled from your own. You are paired with Zarinos, who you beat yesterday in ground combat and who is now eager for revenge. The technique requires perfect balance, timing, and a certain amount of controlled insanity. You ride alongside each other at a canter, not fast enough to be truly dangerous, but fast enough that falling will hurt significantly. At Melanippe's signal, you reach for each other, grabbing arms, shoulders, clothing, anything that provides grip. Zarinos has the advantage of strength and weight, and he nearly yanks you sideways off Saramis. You hook your leg around his, pull, and both of you nearly fall. "Better to fall together than fall alone," Melanippe shouts helpfully. You separate, circle, try again. This time you anticipate his grab, lean into it rather than resisting, and use his own pulling force to unbalance him. He slips but recovers. You both return to starting positions. This exercise continues until the sun is setting and you are too exhausted to feel your arms anymore. The evening meal is welcome beyond measure. You eat mechanically, too tired to even taste the food, just shoveling calories into your body because tomorrow requires fuel.